When parents don't love their kids properly, it can do a heck of a number on their brains and their perception of reality. And if that's you, you may have had the experience of feeling that the first person who comes along who's kind to you is the one. And you have to be with them, and you have to be with them now. And your attachment wound pushes you to attach instantly with someone you don't even know. And often after you've lost all your boundaries, you start to see that the other person is not what you thought. But your attachment wound will keep you from leaving. And you will keep blaming yourself for why they treated you so badly. And if this is happening for you, it is so important to heal and come back to reality. My letter today is from someone I'll call Sandra. And she writes, "Hi, Anna. I have a question for you. I met what I thought was a super amazing man about a year ago. He had just lost his dad the month before. I had surgery a few weeks later, and while recovering, he was everything to me." How do I know where this is going? Okay, I've got the fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things that I want to come back to on a second reading. And let's go through and just see what Sandra's got going on here. All right. "He took care of me as if he knew me forever. We both enjoyed spending a lot of time together. From day one, he came to my house every day, and although I thought it was going fast, it felt good to finally have someone who wanted me." Okay. "We started talking marriage right away. He said he wanted to marry me, so I scheduled premarital counseling. We completed 6 weeks, and I was off to scheduling the wedding. Please don't be mad at me, Sandra, as I know what I did was wrong here, but I started paying for things before he did a formal proposal with a ring. He'd been off work for a few months prior to us getting together, but he was showering me with so much love and gifts and vacations that I didn't think money was an issue. He asked me to change the wedding date because of money, and I moved it a few months into the future. But by the time Valentine's Day came, I was for sure he would propose, and if not, I was planning to let go because I was starting to feel like he was lying. I did catch him in a lot of lies, even hearing that he was still with his ex when we got together, but he denied it." Okay. 2 months before Valentine's Day, my anxious attachment was on high alert, but at that time I didn't know what it was. And the more I would ask him what is wrong, the more he would say, "We're fine." Well, I stopped believing him. Days leading up to when I broke up with him, I asked a mutual friend if he really wanted to marry me because my gut was telling me something was seriously wrong. He wouldn't talk to me, and he seemed really shut down, but he kept coming around, just distant. And the friend confirmed that he was second-guessing the relationship. My partner and I never talked about it. I asked him via text, are we gonna be okay? And he said he didn't know. He has to see what's going on in his head. No expectations at this time. I was triggered. I literally blacked out from feelings of abandonment and broke up with him via text. He had just lost a cousin the day before. The next day I was mortified of what I did. I pretty much begged him back. Yeah. He would not talk to me, only text back here and there. He still won't talk to me. He was hurt, but blamed me for abandoning him while he was grieving. He would make promises to call me, but wouldn't. My son was grieving also, and I asked him if he would just talk to my son and let him know everything is okay. He said he would, but he only called my son a week later and didn't reach him. My son is 11, and the ex is not his dad. He also said he would pay for money as I paid to vendors for the wedding, but when I asked about it, he was dismissive and said he'll pay when he gets it. Yeah. I'm in therapy and working on myself. I've since read books on attachment and on having compassion for myself. And my question is, I keep thinking of the good moments in the beginning, but have so many questions as to why he shut down on me later in the relationship. I thought I was dealing with PMS, like in yourself, but now I see it was my attachment style causing me so much anxiety in the relationship. Oh, interesting that you think that. I'm sure I overwhelmed him with my emotional imbalances. Oh no, but I just couldn't put my finger on why he wouldn't tell me what was wrong. I'm now equipped with more information about myself, and I struggle with feeling like my emotional issues ended the relationship, yet how he treated me leading to the breakup and after don't show love, so why can't I let this go? Was it me and or him? I hear he is now grieving the loss of his dad almost a year later. Kind regards from Sandra. Oh, Sandra, this is so hard and sad. All right, I can help. I'm going to help you get some clarity on this situation. This is what we do. Sometimes we need a friend to look at it because there's something we can't see that's right in front of us. All right, you thought he was super amazing. He had just lost his dad a month before you met. And you had surgery a few weeks later, and while you were recovering, he was everything to you. So he rushed in, he saw you every day, and there were gifts and vacations, and he wanted to marry you. You got love bombed, darling. It's like, yeah, why? Who knows? He does not seem like somebody who has real love to give. And so whether he was always trying to manipulate you or whether he's just a broken person who only knows how to, go through the motions of like somebody who buys a lot of presents, like love, he didn't do love. But he showed up for you. And you know what? I've been that person I had a bunch of surgeries too. And I got into a ridiculously bad relationship during that time for similar reasons. They were there for me. I really needed help. You had an 11-year-old, I had little kids. Boy, when you're a mom, a single mom, and you're going through a hard medical thing, somebody's got to show up. And if you grew up with trauma, you don't always have somebody. So it's pretty easy for somebody to kind of step in and sweep you off your feet just by bringing over a bit of food, So it felt good to have somebody who wanted you. Of course it did. Of course you need that. You always have. Yeah. So you started talking marriage right away. Forgive me if I'm projecting, but it just sounds like you've really wanted to get married a long time. You have this kid. You've thought about the process if that would happen. So if somebody comes along and they're just like way into you, you want to go to premarital counseling. So you completed 6 weeks, but I'm just wondering, like, what kind of counseling? Did they mention that something's not right here, that this is way too soon? And did they help you kind of figure out what, some of the really important questions? I know, when my husband and I got married, we went to premarital counseling that was required by our church. And we also did other stuff because we wanted to, some discernment around it. But when you go to the sort of like standard counseling, there's a whole piece on money. Like money is a huge reason why marriages break down. And so agreement about kids, stepkids, future kids, and money, those are like core. Those are the 2 chapters that are always in marriage counseling. So I'm just wondering about that, if that got talked. And then you were off to scheduling the wedding. And I know that feeling, like if I could just get married. I think when there's a lot of anxiety and something's not sitting right with you, but your trauma wound is greater and stronger than your red flag detector, and it's just like, don't listen to that, just get married, it'll go away. If you get married, then of course he loves you, but, right? we know that that's not really true. Like, literally anybody can get married. Las Vegas exists for that. When you say, please don't be mad at me, I would never be mad at you or anybody for making a trauma-driven mistake that's just like things I've done. You started paying for things before he did a formal proposal with a ring. So yeah, it's a certain kind of energy, that we get sometimes. One partner, often the woman, is just got a little bit of bridezilla going. And I totally understand. When you're a single mom, it's not material. It's like you need things to be settled. You need things to be good. But your trauma wound is trying to make you create a silk purse out of a sow's ear, if you know that saying. You didn't have good raw materials, so no matter how much you tried to work on it and dress it up and do the right thing, you couldn't make it go. So he had been off work for a few months prior to you getting together. So you say off work, and, well, I don't know, unemployed, right? So that's another thing that, many people get unemployed, and it's possible to get into a relationship with a bright future when that's going on. But generally, if you're thinking about marrying a single mom, you need to be employed. And And you didn't think money was an issue because he was showering you with stuff, love bombing you. He asked you to change the wedding date because of money. So it sounds like he had some investment in this whole thing coming off, but you started to feel that he should propose, but he didn't. So here's the thing. There is a scenario where somebody who's going through a hard time financially, who really is in love, who's serious about marriage, and by this time, what, you've been together like 8 months or something, right? And I'm just going to give you a number, okay? I just don't think anybody should decide to get married in less than 18 months of dating. And it needs to be serious dating, like for real, and not the kind of dating where you're afraid to talk about things or where one person is stonewalling and won't let you talk about things. You weren't avoiding it, you were trying. So you thought for sure he would propose. I bet you were just waiting for that and you just wanted everything to fall into place. But you were feeling like he was lying, and then you say, I did catch him in a lot of lies. So right there, okay, so when you say at the end, when you're like, what does it all mean? We'll get to your specific questions at the end. It's like you became a person who got lied to a lot, and you swept it under the rug. And so when you do that, you go into this cognitive dissonance where nothing quite makes sense and you're confused. It was alarming to me how quickly you were ready to attack yourself and completely blame yourself. And then you were kind of coming back out and seeing that he kind of did something wrong to you and then, right back. But you caught him in a lot of lies. So I'm just going to say categorically, for everybody out there, do not marry somebody you catch in a lot of lies. Lying is a terrible sign that somebody cannot or won't or doesn't want to be what you are hoping for. And yeah. And then like he lied that he was still with his ex when you got together. So something tells me he still is with his ex, that there's still a lot of drama over there. Something's going on that he's hiding from you, that he's pretending is other things. 2 months before, you say, my anxious attachment was on high alert. This is where you blame yourself. You may have anxious attachment and it made you rush into a relationship. That's what we do. But that's what we do when we're not healed yet. Okay, you're not always going to do this, so don't worry. But it made you do that. But your anxious attachment isn't why you were getting the red alert inside. You were getting it because you were being lied to. That's why. That's a healthy, perfectly good gut response. You said, I was on high alert, but I didn't know what it was. The more I would ask him what is wrong, the more he would say, we're fine. And I stopped believing him. So just, here's your feedback. You had good instincts. You read that correctly. Something was wrong. You knew it. So days leading up to when I broke up with him, I asked a mutual friend. So you asked the friend, does he really want to marry me? And the friend said, no, he's second guessing it. But you never talked with the partner about it. And so like if people are planning a wedding and one of them doesn't want to and they're not talking about it, even if they've never lied, like their inability to talk about how they're feeling about it is a huge red flag. It's kind of like not ready for marriage for sure, and not even boyfriend material. So then you asked him via text, are we going to be okay? And somehow I can really feel the anxiety and the sadness that you were going through when you weren't really getting communication and you knew things were falling apart. And he said he didn't know. He has to see what's going on in his head. No expectations at this time. You said, I was triggered and I literally blacked out from feelings of abandonment. And that's where my heart flew out to you. Like, that's pretty serious. You literally blacked out from feelings of abandonment. That's called abandonment melange, by the way. It sounds like you have some very bad wounds in the past, and it caused your nervous system to blow a fuse. And you couldn't even stay conscious. It was so terrible. And you broke up with him via text, which was good. And you say he just lost a cousin the day before. What I notice about this guy is he's always just lost somebody, and a little bit, I don't even believe it. It's like when people who are terrible about coming to work, they're just like, they always have a funeral. Have you ever had somebody? I've had this at work where people, they forgot that they already said that their dad died. And they do it again, and then you're like, wait a second, I thought he died last year. His cousin died the day before. So I question, is this a lie he uses to get space when he doesn't want to deal with you because there's a big truth that he can't tell you. So the next day you were mortified at what you did. That's where I was like, what? At what you did? Ask him how you were doing and breaking up because he said he didn't know. and he couldn't have expectations, that's appropriate to break up. And then you pretty much begged him back. So here's what that is. That's your attachment wound again, your abandonment wound. You know, for a minute, the abandonment melange comes on, and for a minute, we're rational, and then maybe we get overreactive a little bit, and we do things in a rough way, or we do it, like, sure, you could have waited till the next day, or whatever, but the thing is, all the lying and the avoidance and not talking to you and leaving you, you know, at the altar with all these expenses and all that, this guy is bad news, very bad. And you know, this is speculation, but I do think there's something like, I don't know, I think he's back with his ex. That's what I think. And he's got to lie about it, and he's got to pretend it's you, and you did something wrong, and why are you acting like this, right? And you're taking it on. So he would not talk to you, only text back here and there. He still won't talk to you. He was hurt, but blamed me for abandoning him when he was grieving. When he was grieving, my gosh. Okay, you dodged a bullet, sister, okay? He would make promises to call but wouldn't, and then he wouldn't call your son, and you asked him to just talk to the son and let him know, and he wouldn't. He'd called, and then he didn't reach him. What a jerk. You got out. I'm so glad this didn't work. It's like he did for you what you couldn't do for yourself. He just, you know, he just totally let you down, but it's good. He's out of the way. You paid the vendors for the wedding. I have a feeling you're never going to see any money from him, and I'm really sorry about that. And you can chalk it up to a lesson learned about your trauma-driven desire to get married and to be stable, letting you get ahead of the cart in front of the horse, and doing that. And now you're paying for it, and it's a small price to pay if you can transform this tendency of yours and finally begin to heal your trauma so that you can wait until you have really good information about somebody that you get through slow-paced dating. And then, and then gradually open up to them, and then gradually talk about the future. But in man-woman dynamics, a lot of people are going to be mad about this, and I realize there is variation on this. But generally speaking, and from the way you describe yourself, I'll just say this is kind of like the standard template of we're supposed to wait for the man to like show his intention. He's supposed to propose and get the ring. That's the format that you guys were in. And so you thought I'd be mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I completely, deeply on a cellular level understand, but I'm just here to like give you my hand. It's like, come on up out of that ditch, because you don't belong there. And this is an old trauma-driven idea that somehow you can make something like that work. So your son is 11. That's a beautiful and tender age. And at that age, it starts to be hard for them to have a stepdad. And it's risky too, you know. Like the risk that a boy will be abused in some way, emotionally or physically, by a stepdad is pretty elevated. So if you are dating and considering marriage while he's a kid, I'm just gonna be direct with you. It is so important that you screen and vet this person and really take your time. Like, not just 18 months, but like 3 years. It's okay, there's actually no rush. There's no rush to get married or live together. You can get to know somebody very slowly. Like in the long run, the only kind of partner worth having is one who is really good to you and who gets you and who's solid and dependable for you and makes life a little bit exciting, but not too exciting, not unpredictable in a painful way. That's what's going to be worth waiting for. And so I know, like, the draw, it's physical, it's emotional, it's psychological. It's very hard to be single. And also when you're raising a kid, it's just so natural to wish that third person was there, that other adult helping you with everything. But we mustn't get ahead of ourselves and, turn somebody into it. I did it in a big way in the past. I regret it so much. I wish I could have that time back. Luckily, I got on with my healing, and I was able to change the pattern over a period of about 2 years. And, I had done a lot of work on myself before that point, but boy, this was the thing that was like the last to improve. Well, I say that like I have nothing left to improve about myself. There's always stuff, but this was a biggie. And so about 2 years, I was deeply, humbly working on what I realized was just a terrible destructive pattern in myself. I didn't even know why I did it. I had to really seek mentorship and be spiritually in my intention to become something. I didn't even know who that was yet. And we don't even know what it is yet because of the trauma. We can't even see what that is yet, but we can find out. We can find out if we're honest with ourselves, if we seek mentorship and we seek friendship with other people, in your case, women, who are also walking this path of trying to heal their trauma-driven pattern. So with that, I'm going to suggest you take a look at this download. I have a free download. Anybody can have it. It's called, Signs That Somebody is a Romantic Manipulator. You can download that right here, and I will see you very soon.